大家好，香港時間依家差唔多11點半，收聽緊嘅係 Action World 世界頻道同埋 Facebook 直播嘅。咁啊，今日有個好特別嘅節目啦，叫做學英文冇口音。咁就請嚟嘅一位嘉賓咧，就係 Angela Chong。就佢一陣咧會介紹多啲佢自己啦。咁啊，佢係一位語言治療師啦 ，speech pathologist， 咁就喺多倫多嘅依家。咁我哋會講一講香港人咧學英文或者香港人講英文同加拿大人講英文個分別係咩咧？咁同埋講一啲口音咧係好難講出嚟嘅，即係有啲 pronunciation。Angela, it's a pleasure to have you appearing at Action World for the first time.Thank
you for having me.
We might have a series of shows if people like what we do.
I hope they like what I do.
Right. Now, first of all, Chong, it sounds like it's a Cantonese last name. Or...
It does sound like it's a Cantonese last name. I get that a lot. But because our Taiwanese last name was converted to an English spelling when we first moved to Canada, it just turned into Chang. But my Taiwanese last name is Zong, not Chang. Yeah.
Okay. And how good is your Mandarin?
Terrible. Absolutely terrible. I know some words, and I would say that my accent in Mandarin is pretty good, but my vocabulary and grammar is terrible.
Yeah. 我也可以一点点。I went to YWCA when I was a kid with my sister, and I learned Mandarin for like 3 months. So that was about it. And I got, when I was at the U of T many years ago, I also learned Mandarin for like 3 months, but that's all 6 months of practice.
I hear that it's easier for Cantonese people to learn Mandarin than the other way around. Because of the tones,
Now talk about speech pathology and the line of work that you do. It's part of it, it's helping people to correct their accent. But the broad title that we use is 學英文冇口音, speak English without accent. But isn't it each country might have their own accent, even for Singaporean. That's their Singaporean English.
You're totally right.
What is accent?
You're totally right. We should definitely talk about the name. So the name No Accent, it's really to make the title short. But I could talk in depth about how everyone has an accent. And if you live in Canada, you're going to have a Canadian accent. If you live in Australia, you're going to have an Australian accent. But usually what people think about is there an influence of my first language on this second language that I'm speaking? And that's what I would call no accent. You don't want your Cantonese to be influencing your production of English.
Okay.
Yeah.
嗱咁Angela 咧，即係頭先講啦，就應該每個地方都有佢自己嘅原 original 嘅英文係點樣講啦。Now the hardest accent that I think it's for me is harder to recognize. I think it's Australian and also New Zealand. It's words that we don't use in Canada. Might, for instance, I don't know whether you watched that Crocodile Dundee. Movie many years ago. But Midwest accent, it's to me it's the easiest to understand. New Yorkers, maybe depends on which part of New York, and even Hong Kong was a British colony. Sometimes, I find people from different parts of the UK when they come to Hong Kong, they speak quite differently.
100%. My husband's actually from Hong Kong, and so there's a little bit of that influence of both the Hong Kongese accent and also a little bit of the British accent. Like, for example, the word fast, he'll say as fast, which is more like the British way. So there are still some influences like that.
Okay. Now, this is more like a Cantonese colloquial, or they say it wrong. Like for Cantonese speakers, they say this has nothing to do with accent. 等我 double confirm 啦. I don't know whether you understand what I mean. 等我啫, let me double confirm. But actually, no one says double confirm other than Hong Kongers. So they produce this phrase, which is just Hong Kong people understand.
It's unique
right.
to Hong Kong people, right?
Yeah.
And there are these cases of terms that happen all over the world where it's unique to a certain region. But just because Canada doesn't say it doesn't mean it's necessarily wrong.
Yeah.
It's just unique to Hong Kongers. That's it.
Yeah, one of the audience asked, 咁印度口音又如何？印度口音 Indian accent.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? Sometimes it's difficult to understand as well.
And you know what? There's a real reason for it being difficult to understand, because in an Indian accent, the T's and D's and R's all sound kind of similar to an English speaker or someone from a different accent. So if they're saying time, it sounds like dime. If they're saying dime, they sound like dime. If they're saying rhyme, sometimes they'll go rhyme. And that r sounds a little bit like a D. So that's why it's very difficult, and their intonation, the way their pitch changes over time, and their stress patterns, and they speak really fast oftentimes. So it can be really difficult to understand.
Yeah, the audience, Hank, it says Hong Kong Chinglish. Chinglish. Have you heard of that term?
Yeah, of course. My parents love Chinglish.
Chinglish. Okay. Talking about Indian, I watch some memes, on YouTube. So it's a short one. Think. I think you know what to do. I think you know what to do.
Exactly.
Right?
THs, Ts, and Ds, right? They all sound like that. A very specific sound that to our ears, it doesn't sound different.
So from job seeking perspective, put it this way, it's important to have a clear accent so people can understand. That's good enough, right? So if you go for a job interview, if the interviewer doesn't understand what I say,
of course,
that's problematic.
Of course, yeah. You'd like for people to understand you at least 80% of the time, and usually people can use context to guess what you're saying, and they don't need to understand every single word.
Now I can understand you perfectly because yours is a mother tongue native Canadian English, so it's easy. When you see clients, let's say from Hong Kong, 80%, I would say 85% of the audience who are watching this, they are from Hong Kong, right? Or the diaspora community who live outside of Hong Kong. I guess perhaps we can talk about some of the common mistakes that Hong Kongers make.
Yeah, 100%.
Can you think of a few? Maybe we can share.
100%. I work with a lot of people from Hong Kong.
Right.
The major one, I would say, and I'm thinking about the strongest accent. Just because you have Cantonese as your first language doesn't mean that you're going to struggle with all of these sounds that I talk about.
Yeah.
One is the R sound. So I've had a few Hong Kong people in my life struggle with the R sound.
R?
Yeah.
Okay.
R. So let's say, for example, you're saying the word rock, just rock. Even at the beginning, sometimes Hong Kongers, they'll have a weaker sounding R and it'll sound like W, walk. So if you're saying, oh, I saw a rock on a walk, it might be hard for you to hear the difference between them and make the difference between them.
Yeah. Like a cooking wok, rock and walk.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah. The R sound.
Yeah.
The TH sound is also difficult.
Right.
So oftentimes, depending on what kind of TH sound, there are two different kinds of TH sounds.
Okay.
One is like the one in the or brother. Hong Kongers will make a D instead for that sound. So da or brother.
Yeah.
And my husband used to do that, and
really?
I taught him the TH sound. And I taught him the TH sound, and now he says brother instead of brother.
Yeah. So it's putting your tongue between your teeth.
Yeah, exactly.
Brother.
I actually just did a mini accent workshop about the TH sound with some Hong Kongers in it just on Saturday. And they had to really think about, my tongue sometimes goes up behind my teeth, and you need to put your tongue between your teeth.
Right. How about New Yorkers when they speak in English? It's quite different from Torontonian accent or Midwest. I find like, what is a good accent? Peter Jennings, ABC network. He passed away many years ago. Midwest is easy.
Midwest is easy. Yeah.
Like if you're from, I would consider Manitoba, Winnipeg, Minneapolis, Chicago, Midwest.
Okay.
Yeah, like broadcast accent.
What about like Western, like California or BC?
We have some Californian audience here, actually.
Yeah. What do you think about their accent?
I don't know. I find New York accent sometimes difficult because they curl their tongue so much.
Yeah, they've got a different pattern for sure.
Yeah.
But I would say in Canada, most regions of Canada sound relatively similar.
Yeah.
Compared to in America, there's a lot more differences in dialects.
Oh, okay. So our audience
you want me to do a tongue twister?
To read. She sells
seashells on the seashore.
Yeah. She sells seashells on the seashore. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want me to go even faster? Is that just like a little fun? She sells seashells on the seashore.
Yeah. She sells seashells on the seashore. I cannot go fast.
Oh, another one for Cantonese speakers is L endings. So L endings often go into just O. For example, a word like cold, where there's supposed to be an L, oftentimes Chinese speakers in general, Mandarin and Cantonese, there's no L sound. The tongue doesn't hit the roof of the mouth, and it becomes just a vowel. So my husband used to have trouble saying the word code and cold differently, or the word all and ah.
Cold and cold, C-O-A-L.
C-O-L-D.
Oh, yeah.
And C-O-D-E.
Code, okay, coding, like coding.
Yeah, code.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Code and code.
Well, you're saying them the same, actually. So okay. That's one of the ones for you.
Teach me.
So for
code, C-O-L-D.
For the L, try to feel the tip of your tongue hitting the roof of your
cold.
Mouth. Nice.
Cold.
Nice. Yeah. You got it now.
And cold.
Yeah, there you go.
Cold.
You got it now. There you go.
So Cantonese got more syllables and more intonation, isn't it, compared to Mandarin speakers?
Yeah. So I've heard that Cantonese has more tones.
Tones, yeah.
More difference in patterns in tones.
Yeah.
In English, the way tone is used is different. That's why it sounds different. Even if you hum a phrase in Cantonese versus hum a phrase in English, it'll sound different. Yeah.
So Taiwanese, when, let's say, like yourself, you came to North America when you were 5.
Yep.
Right. So it's easier for you to pick up English. Yes. Accent-wise, let's say if it is 13, 14-year-old kid from Hong Kong.
Great question.
Because the intonation, is so wide, right?
Great question.
It's harder compared to a Taiwanese.
Great. Okay, so
you come at 5. Let's say if someone from Taiwan comes to North America at 12.
Yeah.
Versus like someone from Hong Kong.
I would say there's no difference.
No difference?
There's no difference. It doesn't matter what your language background is. It matters what age you are exposed to a certain language.
Yeah.
There's this concept called the critical age or the critical age of acquisition. If you are exposed to an environment of a language before the age of around 12, 13, then it's going to be really easy for you to learn that accent.
Yeah.
Babies are exposed to the accent and the sound from the womb. So if you have any kind of exposure or if you are immersed in that environment before the age of 12 or 13, then you're going to be able to pick up that accent relatively quickly.
Okay.
The older you get, the harder it is to pick up on all of the different sounds.
Right.
So that's why I'm sure some of you have kids. You might notice that your kids have an accent that sounds like Canadian English.
Yeah.
And if you moved when you were a little bit older and your kid was maybe in high school, then you'll hear a little bit more of that Cantonese influence in their accent.
How about foreign translate words like KFC, Colonel Sanders? Pretty obvious. Some people pronounce it as Colonel Sanders.
Yeah.
Right. So these you have to kind of be acutely aware about the difference.
Yeah. You have to pay attention to the listening.
Yeah.
A lot of people learn language by reading. And so they're like, okay, I see a C-O-L-O-N-E-L. I'm going to read it as colonel.
Yeah.
But then if you listen to a lot of people say the word Colonel Sanders, then you're going to be able to copy that sound a lot better.
Yeah. Now, 1 month ago in the U.S. presidential election, the politicians, they joke about how to pronounce whether it's Kamala Harris. So what's the right way? There is no right or wrong way. Some people do pronounce her name as Kamala, some as Kamala.
I want to say there's 100% a right way and 100% a wrong way.
Okay, tell me.
Like my name is Angela. I'm not going to allow people to call me Angela. That's not right. That's actually someone else's name.
Yeah.
What I recommend if you have a popular name that you're trying to understand better, I would go to a website called Youglish, Youglish, and then type in the name that you're looking for and see how people pronounce it.
Right.
But the one person you should trust for the pronunciation of the name is the person themselves. So listen to Kamala Harris or Kamala Harris. I think it's Kamala Harris. And listen to her say her own name. I, Kamala Harris, blah, 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 blah. And you can trust her pronunciation.
It's a politician and it's a Caucasian guy trying to ridicule about Harris, whether it's Kamala or Kamala. So making
trying to make fun of their name that's a little bit more unique, right?
Political opponent, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what else can a Hong Konger learn? Let's say if they come to an accent reduction session, how long does it take to just to reduce the accent? It cannot be completely gone, right? Because everyone has their own unique way to say things. For a Singaporean, do you know a guy named Nigel something? But his stage name is Uncle Roger.
Oh yeah, I know Uncle Roger. Yes.
Yeah, you know Uncle Roger,
yeah.
right? He speaks quite fluent English. I think he studies at U of Chicago.
Oh.
But when he performs as Uncle Roger, of course, he speaks like a Malaysian.
Malaysian.
Yeah, he's from Malaysia originally.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought that was like a Cantonese accent, overplayed.
Yeah, no? Yeah. In Malaysia, they speak Cantonese.
Oh, okay. Didn't know the difference between Malaysian versus Hong Kong accent.
Right. So what's the end goal? It's your potential interviewer would understand what you say. Is that the end goal? If people come for
it's a good question.
to see you, right?
It's a good question.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to tell other people what their goal is.
Yeah.
They tell me what their goal is. So if their goal is to be super clear and they want to sound like a native speaker of Canadian English, then that's the kind of work I would do with them. If their goal is to just be clear enough that they don't have to repeat themselves and that the other person can understand the majority of what they say and that they can feel more confident, then I would teach them about like the R sound, TH sound, L sound, and little things to do with vowels or intonation, maybe I wouldn't worry too much about. But it depends on what the other person
Now we have an audience who asks, is it too hard to teach an old dog a new trick?
Will it be hard to teach an old dog a new trick? Like I said, there's this critical age. If you move to Canada before the age of 13, it's going to be so easy. In fact, there's no teaching that's even needed. They will pick up the accent naturally.
When they speak with their classmates.
Exactly. When they watch English TV shows, when they speak with their classmates and teachers, it's so natural for them. You don't need to do any teaching. So I don't work with any young kids on accent because I don't need to. So I would say that the only people that are capable of learning or need this teaching is adults. So old dogs, as you say.
Okay. Now, I got a friend, he's very young. He just turned 15. Just came over here a few months ago. He learned his English through playing video games online globally, right?
Yeah.
So suddenly I find, how come he got a North American accent? Yeah, very natural too.
Yeah, by
playing online games.
Exactly. That's great. That's exposure itself too. I have a friend that an online friend who also did the same thing. He had a lot of friends in Canada, specifically Canada, and so his accent was quite good, even though he's lived in Colombia his whole life.
Okay, because of online games.
Because of online games, online friends.
Yeah.
Who speak English.
Yeah. So moms and dads sometimes are playing video games, online games. It's not that bad.
It has its own benefits for sure.
Right. Okay, so I think I learned a few things, but is it difficult, like saying words, single words? Sometimes it's easy to correct.
Yep.
Colonel colonial, right? Colonial is obvious.
That one isn't even an accent. That one is just a difference in how you learn the word.
Yeah.
But try code and cold, for example. You just learned it one
Cold
word.
and cold.
Yeah. So if you try to put it into a sentence, like I'm feeling cold today.
Yeah, I'm feeling cold today.
So pretty good for a sentence, right?
Yeah.
But now try to talk about the cold weather in Canada and how it's easy to adjust to the cold and talk to your viewers using the word cold. It's going to be much harder.
Well, the context too, if you say, I'm doing coding, right? People would understand what you mean.
Sure.
Whether, I don't know, it's Shazam, which is an old programming language.
Sure.
Versus Python, right?
Exactly.
So people would know.
Yeah, for sure. So if that's your goal, just understandability, intelligibility, then you don't need to worry about the L. If you worry about sounding like a native speaker of English, you want to feel that sense of belonging because you've lived in Canada like for more than half your life, then you might want to target the L a little bit more consistently and not just when you're saying one word at a time.
I think our goal can be this: if people like what we do, people like to watch TED Talk, right?
Mm-hmm.
TED Talk is usually 8 to 10 minutes, sometimes 12 maximum, right? So we can give our audience something special. Of course, they can learn everything online, and for your audience, your clients, most of them, it's they learn how to pronounce words correctly first, and then they do it like in a sentence, and then they make a speech. Is that how things work if they come for your remedial sessions?
For my sessions, yes. I always start with an easier level. So just like what I did with you just now, just one word or talking about the sound first, then the word, then a sentence, then a conversation.
Yeah.
You always want to move up a hierarchy and take things one step at a time.
So the audience, they are communicating with each other.
Awesome. Oh,
it's fun. So between audience.
One person's asking about the resource that I talked about, Youglish. Yeah. It's basically a combination of you and English. So you're missing just that S. Youglish, G-L-I.
So it's an online thing?
Yeah, it's an online free resource.
Yeah, You.
No, Y-O-U, sorry.
YOUGLISH.com.
And you can put in any word or even phrase. I recommend it for names or terms that you're unfamiliar with using. Yeah. And you can hear sample sentences from real people just pulled from YouTube videos.
Youglish. Very good. Yeah. So.
You're welcome.
Right. I guess people are quite interested because now I know some of the audience, they are not 15, 16. They are like a little bit younger than me or a little bit older than me, but definitely not 15 to 16 years old.
Yeah, the usual age that I work with then, yeah.
Yeah, so it captures their attention when they put up that thumbnail with Snoopy and that girl.
Oh, perfect.
Right? Yes. Yeah. Anything else we can talk about before we close today's session? Because I really want like something, if people like what we do, this is like an experimental thing. Even would you teach people how to make seriously like a 5-minute speech? Let's say if since these are older audience, right? If they have let's say wedding ceremony to go to, they have to make a speech. Maybe is their daughter's wedding. 3 to 5 minute impromptu speech in English. Is it hard to do? Have you done that or?
I have done that actually for some clients and for myself too. I had to do a speech for my sister's wedding. Yeah. One thing that I would get you to focus on, like all the other accent pieces aside, is your intonation. In English, your intonation, which is the pitch of your voice and how it changes over time, is really important because it affects how people feel. If you just talk like this all the time and you have this long, just flat intonation, it doesn't sound compelling. It doesn't
like my pulse, flat. No heartbeat sometimes.
That's not good, but but yeah, you want to have some more variation in your intonation. In English, intonation, this high, low pitches, show what you're emphasizing. So if you're making a speech for a wedding and you want to make certain words sound more important than others, you want to pay attention to the melody of English. The most important thing.
Yeah. In Cantonese, it is called 抑揚頓挫. 抑揚頓挫. I don't know how to say it in Mandarin. 抑揚頓挫. Maybe my audience would know. 抑揚頓挫. So it's like
usually it's a direct translation. Something ing, right?
Yeah. Can use the ChatGPT to translate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, so that's how people will remember your speech. If it is flat tone, then boring.
It's so boring. People will stop paying attention. It's hard to pick up the ends of the sentences. It doesn't sound like you're engaged in the speech at all.
Mm-hmm. You study undergrad at the West Coast and then did your graduate school at a very cold place, Midwest, or is it Rocky Mountain?
Basically.
University of Alberta, right?
University of Alberta.
That's where you get your speech pathology specialty.
Yes, and it was very cold.
Yes. I remember Edmonton. It's like negative 30 Celsius.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Colder than Calgary.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Now, maybe before we wrap up, East Coast accent versus West Coast Canadian accent.
Not too much of a difference, to be honest. In
Really?
Canada, there isn't that much variation, unless you're talking about the Maritimes, like Newfoundland or New Brunswick. Those are a little bit different. But in Canada, there isn't too much variation in the accent compared to the States. In the States, someone from California will sound so much different from someone from Texas or Alabama or New York, right?
Yes.
But in Canada, it's not too different. I come from BC, and it's harder to tell.
Yeah.
What's one way you could tell, though, is how people pronounce the word Toronto, because people from outside of Toronto or outside of Ontario would probably pronounce it as it's spelt, Toronto, with a T sound.
Yeah.
Toronto versus Toronto.
Toronto.
Yeah.
Toronto.
I feel like you don't usually pronounce it that way.
Toronto.
Yeah, Toronto.
Yeah. And Canadians, right? And a sentence sometimes with a. Not too often, no.
Not too often, but I definitely do. It's cold outside, eh?
Oh, you do?
I
do. Okay. I don't. Okay. So, 問下啲聽眾先，唔知大家喺邊度嚟。So anyone from West Coast, you want to ask Angela before we wrap up today's show? I know, like in California, they have a unique way to say things. It's less aggressive compared to like New York. I find New Yorkers sometimes.
There's a different culture there too. So the way they talk,
as if like I'm in a war zone. Sometimes when I talk to some,
they've got places to go. They got to be fast. They got to be blunt. Yeah.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
California, more pleasant. Definitely Vancouver. Toronto, I don't know. It's kind of blend. You know, it's I shouldn't say much about Toronto because it's an easy accent. It's considered to be one of the friendliest cities in the world. So it can be too aggressive, the way we say things. But New York, it's quite different.
Now you're definitely talking about communication style and not accent. And that's definitely a different conversation altogether.
Yes. But we can definitely cover many different things if people like the program. And this is 28 minutes already that we speak.
Yeah, I can talk forever about it.
Yeah, time goes fast. So we might see Angela's team sometime in January. It's not quite finalized yet. Can you tell us a little bit about the specialty school or that you have? Well, you have a clinic.
Like my clinic?
Your clinic, right?
So
what is it called and what do you do?
Yeah, great. So my virtual clinic is called Speak Fluent. I wonder if some of you have seen some of the ads on Facebook about it.
I did.
Oh yeah, that's how you found me, right?
Yes.
Perfect. So this clinic is me and a team of speech therapists. So it's covered under work insurance usually. Or sometimes if you ask your employer for a professional development budget, our kind of training is often covered as well. So definitely ask and look into your insurance plan to see if it's covered. And I work on a lot of different things. My whole team works on different things related to communication. So if at any point in your life you feel like your communication could use a little bit of work, if you refined your communication just a little bit, would it take you further in your career? Would it help you feel more comfortable or confident in your relationships? It can be anything from accent modification, changing your accent. It could be enunciation, just moving your mouth more, making sure you articulate well. Or it could be organizing your ideas. Sometimes I have people with ADHD, or maybe they just feel like they're unpracticed, inexperienced with communicating, and they're not really used to knowing how to organize information, so it's really compelling for their listener. So and presentation skills, interview skills, I do all of that.
How about speaking psychology? Now, I come from a hedge fund background.
Yeah.
We do trading psychology.
Uh-huh.
Speaking psychology, what I meant by that was someone has never done public speaking thing. But then suddenly he has to speak in front of 100 people and his face flush.
Oh, yes.
How to control that?
That's a good one. So
how to control your flushing on your face?
That's a really good one.
Yeah.
I used to be terrible at public speaking.
Yeah.
And I want everyone to realize that speaking skills is a trainable skill. You don't have to be born with a talent or anything. I used to be very shy, very introverted, still introverted, but obviously I speak for a living.
Right.
There are a couple different strategies that you could try. One is just do more public speaking. If you only speak in public once a year, you're going to get nervous about it every time. But imagine a world where you did it every week or every other day. No way are you going to be anxious about it anymore. Second, breathing strategies. If you do only do it semi-regularly, once a month, then breathing strategies can help. Sometimes as people speak or even as they prepare for a presentation, they start breathing like this and then they psych their body out and they get really nervous. So even as I pretend to do that, my palms get a little sweaty because we're telling our body how to feel. But we're capable of controlling our body and capable of telling our body to relax and breathe in deep through our diaphragm. And that usually helps to calm us down.
Okay. So Angela, since this is virtual, the audience is global. If they have this need to see a pathologist like you, can they use the service?
They definitely can.
Yeah.
The only thing is if they're international, they wouldn't be able to use their work insurance or their insurance plan.
I don't think they have a work insurance just from the comments that's made.
Yeah, so no problem.
Global.
If you're international, you can definitely use our services.
Yeah.
I work with a couple international clients and they benefit from it. No problem.
Okay. 咁咧就如果各位聽眾 I'm just asking them to email me. It's easier because this is in every show, right?
Sure.
Is there like so once they they show interest, I pass it to you and then someone will talk to them or you will talk to them individually.
So there are two cases.
Yeah.
If you already know that you want to work with me, you can go ahead and directly book an assessment with me. If you're not sure if this is the right fit for you or you want to learn more about the service, you can get a free call with my admin team to figure out the service fit, share a little bit about what you're looking for, and we'll let you know how it works.
Sounds very good. 咁大家可以 email 我啦 edckchin@gmail.com 咁就 Angela 就 base 喺 so for now you're based in Toronto, right? Yeah. Toronto.
Yeah, Toronto. There you go. You're learning a lot of things today.
Yeah. I'm always thinking about Hong Kong. So even though I lived here before and then I moved back and now I'm relocated, I think more global than being local.
Yeah.
So I have to learn Toronto. Yeah.
You don't have to. It's just if you want to.
Yeah. Cannot pretend. Okay. One more comment. Yes, speaker skill is a trainable skill. Practice makes perfect. Our Zoom lessons deliver from global client.
What does that mean? Like
for global clients, Zoom lessons.
For global clients.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
So I use Google Meets, but yes, essentially, and it's for anyone.
Okay. So 係啦，大家可以 email 我啦，咁就再講一次。What's the name of your company?
Speak Fluent.
Speak Fluent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you do want to bypass ed and just learn about Speak Fluent, you can go ahead and look that up.
Yeah. Speak Fluent or email me. Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. It was a pleasure. Thank you for having me.